Hey everybody, so welcome back to Jim Bob's Garden. So today, what I want to talk about, well first off, the elephant in the room. Yeah, I know, I haven't been doing anything for a long time, and the garden has paid the price. Out of all the stuff that I planted, I lost all of my garlic, got most of the onions, strawberries all died. I got a few pepper plants still alive. I've got some, what do I got? Got some sweet potatoes. And that's just about it. That's all that really survived. Oh, and some collards here. That's about all that really survived. Some chives here and there and a few other things, some onions, but for the most part, everything died. And they're the bunching onions. Bunching onions are great, by the way. If you want to use the green tops to dry and use for dip and such like that, fantastic thing. Well, what we're going to talk about is what am I going to plant this year. It is September, middle towards the end of September. And what can I plant in September? So what I'm planting this year, I'm going to plant some bush beans, some pole beans, some cucumbers, some summer squash, some beets, broccoli. Don't have any cabbage. I'll probably get some cabbage seed. I might plant some carrots, so I'll probably wait till next month. Collards already got growing. Endive, escarole, kale, kohlrabi, leeks, lettuce, onions, bulbing onions. Onions, bulbing, onions, bunching, parsley, radish, and turnips. Alright, so let me grab my bowl of goodies and I'll show you what all I'm going to plant. Alright, so what do I got to plant? I got some tatsoi. Tatsoi is a really good green. Should be okay to start right now. Hopefully if it doesn't get too hot. I've got a whole bunch of different varieties of bush beans. I got some pole beans. I got some cauliflower. I've got some cucumbers. Several different varieties of cucumbers, yard longs. I've got Naga Jibai, and then I've got these snake beans, the Indian Giant, which we're going to try those. Might be a little late in the season. Got a ton of my broccoli seed that I've saved. Some Swiss chard. I may put in. I haven't decided yet. Some more of the bush bean that I've saved, some muncher cucumbers, some black-seeded Simpson lettuce, some Fort Hook Giant Swiss chard, some Henderson's black-seeded, oh, did I say that already? I believe so. Some more lettuce, daikon radishes, some tokanashi turnips, some red salad bowl lettuce, some daikon radishes, some Chinese green noodle beans, some butternut lettuce, see there's tatsoi again, some dazzling blue kale, and a different variety of broccoli. So that's what I got planned to plant today. That's what I'm going to do for my fall garden. Now there's going to be some more stuff as it goes along. I'll probably do another monthly update here in a month or so. Alright, so I had weeds in here about chest high. They were at least as tall as the lemongrass you see behind me. Beforehand, went and pulled all the tall weeds out, and then I went through with my trusty hoe, hoed it all out, and then I used my rake to smooth it and level it. Alright, and then I'll be using my hoe to dig the furrows I'm going to put the seeds into. Alright. Is there more you could do? Yeah, I mean you could throw some fertilizer down if you're into the fertilizer thing. I'm not. I do have some compost that I could throw down right now, but rather than stir up the soil extremely and mix that compost in, what I'm going to do is I'll go ahead and put it on after they've sprouted up and I've thinned them out. You don't need a lot of fertility for things to sprout. But if I do that, then what'll end up happening is once they get up grown, well, I mean, you know, a couple inches tall, and I get them thinned out to where I want them, then I'll go ahead and throw that compost down and then some mulch over the top of that, just to kind of keep things nice and fresh and cool to the best of my ability until the temperatures do cool off. Now we're still in hurricane season here, still hot out. Like right now I think it's like either low 90s or high 80s. Definitely warm. Still probably a little too warm for a lot of these things to grow, but I don't think it will be in a couple of weeks. So hopefully we'll be okay. But I do want to get an early start this year, get things going on like I want to. And then, like I said, once I get it down, I'll take some grass clippings once I get things to sprout up, and I'll take and cover this up with grass clippings to keep the soil a little bit cooler and to keep some of the moisture in while it's still warm out. All right, and it'll also help keep some of the warmth in once it cools off a bit. So it's a great leveler, your mulch layer is. And for mulch, I just use my grass clippings. I'm not going to go out and buy a bunch of mulch. All right, and definitely don't put wood chips into a regular vegetable garden. It didn't work out well the times that I've tried it, so I don't recommend that at all. Great for trees and so on and so forth. Now I do want to talk about, I talked to you about, you know, all the things that died in the yard, but I do want to bring up our fruit tree harvest. So far we've gotten a whole bunch of different fruit throughout the year, and that's with me paying no attention whatsoever, taking care of the garden at all, just really let it go. For various reasons I'm not going to get into. But what did we get? We got a whole bunch of loquats, we got a bunch of plums, I still have persimmons on the tree, I got a bunch of peaches, I got a bunch of mulberries, I have oranges on the tree right now, nice big fat oranges. They're not quite ripe yet, but they're getting close. They're getting close. I did have figs, I had an apple, still not quite satisfied with the whole apple produce. Last year we had a huge amount of lemons, like 75 I think is what I counted, plus or minus a few. Now I've got one out of the same tree. We did freeze really hard last year, and I think that really damaged it. Some of the branches died back. So part of what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead here in the next few days as I'm pulling out the rest of the garden, or pulling the weeds out of the rest of the garden. I'm going to go ahead and trim back the dead on that and try and hopefully get it ready for next year. Hopefully it'll produce again like it did this past year. But I got some backup. I got a couple other smaller lemon trees that should be growing into their own here very soon. So despite the fact that we didn't really take care of the garden at all, we did have a really good fruit harvest. Had fruit pretty much all year round. Had something growing all year round for the most part. There's been a couple months where there wasn't much of anything. The grapevine you see over here on the side of me, that produced a lot of grapes. We got some grapes off of that, so you know, we got a few things, and there'll be more again next year. And that's the wonderful thing about fruit trees. You can just stick them in the ground, and they'll go ahead and produce for you, and really don't need a lot of care. I know a lot of people are like, oh, you got to fertilize this time, you got to fertilize that time, you got to cut them back this time, you got to cut them back that time. I usually only cut mine back when I can't mow under them, or when they get to be a pain in the butt, you know, for the neighbor or whatever the case might be. I don't really spend a lot of time babying my fruit trees. Alright, now I want to go through real quick and just show you the basics of planting for those of you who might not know. Okay, so what we're going to start with is some Henderson's black-seeded Simpson lettuce. It's a really good variety of lettuce that we really like. It's a nice leaf lettuce. You can cut it and come again, keep cutting it, come again, which is really nice. Now the only thing is, let's just say for temperatures, there we go. It says seed depth 1/4 inch, sprouts in 7 to 10 days. Ideal temperatures is 60 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit. It says minimum sun is 4 to 8 hours. All right, and it is somewhat frost hardy. So the thing with this is basically it's going to be hot out here. Now in the sun it's about 10 degrees hotter if you put a thermometer right here in the sun. Whereas in the shade it's going to be the normal temperature. Like I said, we're in the mid 80s now. We should be getting down into the regular 80s. And I have extra of this seed, so I'm going to go ahead and plant, and then we're going to see if we get some more, and I'll plant that again. All right, but one of the things I'm going to do, and I selected this plot on purpose because, as you'll see, it's about 2 o'clock now, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to plant them here where they get shaded in the afternoon time. So the heat of the day, they're going to get some shade. Now these seeds are very, very tiny seeds. And so hopefully you can see that those seeds are very small, and the rule of thumb is you want to plant about 3 times the size of the seed deep, thus the 1/4 inch. You don't want to plant them very deep, not very deep at all. And in fact, you can almost lay these on top of the soil if you don't have a huge bug or bird problem. So I'm just barely going to scratch the surface. I'm going to dig me a line here. I do want it up underneath the shade, which is part of why I'm doing it this time of the day. Like I said, I'm just barely going to scratch the surface. Now, do you need to put it in a row? No, you don't. You can just scatter it if you want, if you got a spot where you just want it to all be lettuce. Or you can plant it in a row. Decision's up to you. The advantage to planting it in a row is that once it starts to sprout, you're going to see a row of growth, and you're going to know, well, that's something I planted. And then once you get a little better at it, you're going to be able to say, well, those seeds, or those baby plants, are lettuce. Now I'm going to sow these. What does that mean? That means I'm going to kind of just scatter them along in a row, and where they fall, they fall. If I get a whole bunch, that's okay. I'm going to come through and I'm going to pull some of these out. Then I'm just going to go through after that. I'm going to lightly cover them back over. Just where I get a light covering of soil over them. Don't want a whole lot. Like I said, these you can actually just let them lay on the ground as they fall, and they will come back. They don't require a whole bunch of soil covering. Alright, and in fact, if you cover too deep, oftentimes that will cause them to not grow. So I highly recommend, when it comes to things like carrots and lettuce, that you just barely cover them up. Alright, so that is the basics on planting. Alright, so that's what I'm going to get to planting right now. I don't want to go through the whole thing with you, waste a bunch of your time. That's how you go about planting them. Of course, once you plant things, make sure you water them in right afterwards. You need to do it by hand, or I've got a sprinkler set up to where I'll be able to sprinkle it in, soak it down real good. And then the other thing to think about is, like, tomorrow and the next day it's supposed to rain here. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and allow that rain to water it in as well. So you may find it's advantageous to plan with the forecast in mind. Okay, well, it's going to rain for the next 2 days, so today is a great time to plant, because then you don't have to worry about watering them. They get a nice deep soaking, and you know, unless you have a problem with flooding, where the seeds could potentially wash away, then like I don't. But if it's not for that, or if you don't have that issue, then it's a great time to plant. Right, so I know I've got some rain coming. That's why I'm planting today. I'm gonna try and get this garden here planted out and some things on my various trellises, and we'll see how it all works out. All right, that's what I'm planting here in September. I'll be planting some more stuff. Oh, one other thing. So I buy plants at the store every once in a while, and when I do, I keep the trays. All right. Then you can either put garden soil, planting soil, just about anything. I sift my compost with some regular dirt, and I put that in, and then I'll grow them up in these pots. And the advantage of that is, one, you can put them inside where it's cool until they get big enough to put them outside. And then the second advantage is, if you're worried about wasting your seed, like what I just did there, I planted a bunch of seed and I'm going to end up pulling out. All right, putting them in pots will waste less seed, so you can be more careful about how many seeds you use. But keep in mind, once those baby plants grow up, if I pull them out, I can still eat them. All right, they're still edible, particularly things like leafy greens and so on. So that's something to think about. All right, that's what I've got going on today. That's what I'm going to start doing, so that hopefully this fall I'll actually have a garden growing instead of what I had growing on for the last few months. Thanks for stopping by. Do me a favor, give me a like and subscribe, and let me know what you think. Most importantly, grow something. I know sometimes you just don't feel it, and so you can let it go, and then you can always catch back up, like I did. All right, thanks once again. Y'all come back to see me. Like I said, grow something.